and weekend late pick five preview show. Nick Tammaro here covering Sundays. That's right, it's Sunday this time around. Once again, actually for a second straight year, Rebel Day will be on a Sunday. This time it's planned that way, and I am pleased to be joined by the voice of Oaklawn Park, Matt Dinnerman. Matt, the bad weather is behind you guys. Things are looking brighter for sure as we can see out your window, and it's getting close to Arkansas Derby time.
It sure is. It feels like with that break that we had in January, things felt a lot quicker, to be honest with you. So we're up to Rebel, and we're only 4 weeks away from Arkansas Derby, and really excited. Going to be a big weekend here. Rebel weekend is always one of the best weekends here at Oaklawn, and we're expecting big crowds on track and just a fun time. So it's an exciting time of the year for racing fans over in the South here.
Yeah, the weather down here has totally broken. I mean, it's warm, and I think it's going to be relatively warm there too. So you're going to have an enormous crowd, no question about it. Well, we're excited to talk about this late pick five sequence. Once again, we have the $2,000 late pick five hit it and split it promotion available at TwinSpires.com. Opt in, and of course, if you hit this late pick five, which we're going to talk about it, I think it's pretty approachable. I will admit, having looked at the overnight and then looking at the past performances, I was worried. A lot of these sequences are very, very difficult, but I think this one's very approachable. Hopefully we put you on a winner or two, and you will opt in and get a share of that $2,000. Thanks to everyone at TwinSpires for making that promotion available once again this week. Well, Matt, the sequence starts in race 8 at 3:39 Central Time, 4:39 Eastern Time, with a 6-furlong maiden special weight event where the morning line favorite has been made number 2, Munnings Challenge, a first-time starter by Munnings. This is a Novogratz Racing Stables homebred who is out of a 2-year-old debut winner. Progeny of Munnings are 14% first time out. I guess we can start our conversation with Munnings Challenge and, of course, anybody that you might take that favorite on with.
Well, Munnings Challenge is out of the mare Amy's Challenge, who actually ran at Oaklawn, won stakes races, could stretch her speed a little bit, but very much known for being a very fast sprinter. So with that in mind, it'll be interesting to how this colt here, the first full out of Amy's Challenge, runs, and certainly one that has been working quickly in the mornings down at the fairgrounds for Brad Cox. One thing I've noticed, Nick, is when horses ship from Brad Cox's string, whether it be Florida and fairgrounds, they're a little more live than if they train here at Oaklawn. For whatever reason, he will run good horses here at Oaklawn, but the ones that train on site aren't typically his best younger horses. So if you like Munnings Challenge, you have to like the fact that this horse is coming from the fairgrounds working there. I picked the second choice on the morning line, Silver Syndicate, a $400,000 Liam's Map colt that on debut, he was well regarded. He got bet for a barn, Ron Moquette, who doesn't really crank him up first time out. And this horse actually was coming off a little bit of a break in the mornings. We had that bad weather stretch in late January, and he only had a couple days to train on the track after about 8 or 9 days where he wasn't able to. And this horse looked like just the patented type of horse that needed his first race. Got a good trip, looked like he was going to win at the quarter pole when he started to inch away from the competition. Then he got pretty tired in the final furlong. So I think that's a real good tightener for him. He should get a good trip here. I think Silver Syndicate's the one here. And Fancy Fairlane is one that I think you have to respect coming out of that key race. There were 3 next out winners, including the winner of the Lecomte, Golden Tempo. But I do think this will be a fairly formful way to start off the late pick 5. I haven't heard any specific great things about, for example, Hidalgo or Machado from the Steve Asmussen barn. Haven't heard any hype on them, how they can run. I think it'll be a rather formful start to the pick 5 here.
Yeah, I mean, Machado basically got the call up from AAA, going from Sam Houston to Oaklawn, I guess Steve wanting him to debut for a much, much bigger purse. You mentioned Silver Syndicate, who I thought was the horse to beat. You don't know what you're getting from Munnings Challenge. Obviously, I would assume this horse is going to run well. The workouts look good. Silver Syndicate's trainer, Ron Moquette, who's having a rough meet, he's had a lot of second and third place finishes, just won for his last 64 with second-time starters in maiden races on dirt. I do think that, as bad as that stat is, you can take a horse like this that ran the way he did on debut, and I think safely assume he's going to run better. He's also got a ton of early speed, and unless one of those first-time starters is quick off the mark, he should be forwardly placed without question. I want to talk about a horse drawn towards the outside, the 8 Market Runner. And I'll admit, I liked Market Runner quite a bit second time out at Fairgrounds back on Road to the Derby kickoff day on December 20th. We're going to see him here in his last start on January 17th. So this is a race that was won by Reagan's Honor, who came right back and won again. Market Runner is the gray 3-pass off the inside. He's going to do the exact same thing he has now in all three starts, which is make a move off the turn and completely flatten out in the stretch. And to me, Matt, that is the perfect recipe for a cutback. Tom Amoss over the last 5 years is 25% with a $1.64 ROI cutting back on dirt. But interestingly, in the last year, he's 34% with a 277 ROI. So I think Tom has maybe gotten to be a tad more astute. He'd probably laugh at me saying that given how long he's trained. When it comes to horses that probably want to go shorter, I feel like this is a horse that just wants to go a little bit shorter. He was the only interesting price in a race where I do, like you, think it's ultimately going to be pretty formful. So I wanted to try the 8 market runner, but I think I would probably start to pick 5 here with the 2, 5, and 8, and more than likely back up with a horse like the 3 Fancy Fairlane, who's not going to surprise me. Is that fair to say?
I think absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, Market Runner is a horse that cutting back in distance, he's going to be really fit. And it's really funny, Nick, how this works out. We see this all the time. Horses that try routing first time out or maybe a few times and they cut back to sprinting and they do a lot better. And you scratch your head and you say, why didn't they sprint in the first place? It's funny how
Right.
that can work sometimes.
Yeah, the money's going long, and I'm guessing this is a horse that Tom had high hopes for. He is a $250,000 gun runner. Interestingly, the Damn Buy Sell Hold was all sprint. She was a horse that was actually trained by Steve Asmussen in her day for the Robisons. So that is how we will kick off this sequence. The first of 2 stakes races in the Pick 5 sequence is race 9, the Honeybee. And, our conversation, Matt, starts with the invading Explora on the outside. There's actually 2 horses coming in on the outside, but Explora to me will be the more fancied of the 2. I got to be honest, the more I look through this field, as much as I think Explora might be better going shorter moving forward, I thought she looked quite a bit better than these horses.
She certainly, I think, has a little bit of an edge here. I thought her last race was a lot better than looked on a fast pace, dueled the whole way. And if you watch this replay, you're going to see she does not spit the bit. And Meaning got a perfect trip, the winner of this race, the outside horse, Explores on the inside here. Look at her fight back. I mean, this was a really, really good effort. She did nothing wrong here. She just was unfortunate to not get the best trip. I do think that she's probably the one to beat here. I think she's the fastest horse of the race. Can you beat her? Well, I'm going to try to, but I do agree with you. She's 100% the horse to beat, has never finished worse than second in 6 starts. I mean, really, she hasn't done much wrong at all. She shows up every time.
I agree with that completely. So who are you beating her with?
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a swing with Counting Stars here, number 7, who she was 3-5 in the Martha Washington Stakes here at Oaklawn, the last race before the Honeybee, and she was eased basically. I don't know what happened that day. Interestingly enough, if you watch her year's end stakes, which was the race before the Martha Washington, she was sensational there, made a huge move on the turn, very push button, and drew away from the competition. This is a much tougher group. But she has thrown in a clunker in the past and then came right back to win her next start impressively. So I'm looking for value and I'm looking for a runner that, hey, there's nothing wrong with playing a horse that was favored, expected to win the last prep here. She didn't run a race. We know she's a lot better than that. And she's come back to work a bullet work since then. Mark Casse, if he thought there was an issue, he wouldn't be putting her in this race. So I'm hoping that maybe you can get a little bit of value. I hope that last race maybe scares some people away and you get an okay price. I don't know if you'll get 15-1. I doubt that, but based on her last race, she should be high odds. But I just feel that she's a lot better than what she showed last time. I thought after she won the year's end, I said, this filly's got a lot of potential. So the value here, I think she's a good bet. Maybe she doesn't run well. Maybe she's going to be exposed as a second tier type of filly. If she certainly will run better than the Martha Washington. But from a betting perspective, if you can get some value on a horse like that, I don't think she's a bad bet.
No, I totally agree. It's the ultimate buy low spot too, right? Is I wish we knew a little bit of why she didn't run well,
Yeah,
but it's one of those situations where it's not like she ran a little bit and underperformed. She walked off the track.
right.
So something clearly happened. The fact that she came back and worked quickly, I think, is a really positive sign. And I feel like it now makes her a lot more interesting. I agree with you. I think 15-1 is a bit of a stretch, but I think she'll be every bit of 6 or 8-1. I think Explorer also probably goes down off the 7-5 because a lot of people are going to reach the same conclusion that we did. You mentioned the Martha Washington, which is a race that she comes out of, and we have a replay of that race. The 1, 2, 3, 4 finishers in here, they're basically going to line up across the track as the Gary and Mary West runner tires here. These kind of races, Matt, as a handicapper, always make me nervous about taking anybody moving forward because they're packed together at the finish. there was a 3-5 favorite, obviously, that we've talked about already. So all of them were relatively decent prices. The winner was 4-1. The runner-up was 27-1. The third place finisher was 19-1. They're closely grouped together. I feel like my conclusion from this race was you're either taking Counting Stars or you're taking nobody.
I agree 100%. And as you mentioned, they were packed up at the finish. Nickel and Dime, who ran third, there was a $50,000 claim. Broker Maiden for 50. And look, Counting Stars was projected to beat that field easily. And if you look at the other horses in here, Explora, Taken by the Wind, main contenders here, they would be 3-5, 1-5 to win that race too. So I
Mhm.
think that you either look and you say, okay, maybe Counting Stars can run back to what she was supposed to run in a race like that. Or, like you said, you don't take anybody and you try to beat them. But if you do take a horse like a Search Party, then on the other hand, I think you have to look at every single one of those horses in that race. Maybe you like Newtown Pike, but you got to like all of them. If you don't like one, or you like all of them.
Yeah, I think if you forced me to take anybody, I'd probably take Nickel and Dime of that top four, just because she did some of the heavy lifting on the front end. Probably should be forwardly placed again. I don't think the pace scenario really works out that great for her this time around, but there's no denying she's gotten a lot better since the claim. Reminds me a little bit of the Randy Morse horse that he had a few years ago, who he ultimately won a stakes race with. Sprint Taxed was who I was trying to think of, who was a nice, hard knocking horse. You mentioned Taken by the Wind. We can talk about her because we've got a replay of her last start, the Silver Bullet Day down at Fairgrounds. And, the form from this race, Matt, we're learning a little bit more about it as time goes by. Love Your Neighbor, who was the runner-up in Lyell Stable Silks, ended up coming back and running second in the Rachel Alexandra. Pashmina, who was a little bit farther back, ran second in the Sunland Park Oaks, ran a credible race in there. Did get interfered with a little bit by the eventual winner. This, to me, was kind of a phony race. They walked on the front end, Taken by the Wind, sort of stuck her neck out, and nobody wanted to get by her. I think what I took out of this race more so is I felt like Atropa underperformed, and it was just a great setup for Taken by the Wind. I can't bet her at 5-2. I don't think she'll be quite that short, but even at 3 or 4-1, she just doesn't get me excited.
Yeah, I mean, you look in that race, and she was close to the pace. Now, it was contentious. She didn't get a clear lead the whole way
Right.
around. Eventually, they came and pressed her, but you have to admire the fact that she dug in. She didn't spit the bit, and I do like that. Maybe she probably wasn't fully cranked to win a race like the Silver Bullet Day. Now she's going to be a little more cranked to win a race like the Honeybee with a lot more money, graded stake status down the road into the Kentucky Oaks. Kenny McPeak probably trying to ease her into 100% cranked up mode. But I agree with you on that. I don't think that race was particularly strong. And I also feel that the pace scenario is going to be a lot different here. There's a lot more speed. She's drawn outside post 10. It's not an impossible place to win from, but you also don't want to be caught wide on the turns here at Oaklawn. It's hard to win outside in a 2-turn race, going 3-4 wide, drawn all the way out there with a filly that's got tactical speed. She doesn't need the lead. Obviously, the pace is going to be quicker than we saw in that last race with her. I think there are some questions as to what kind of trip she's going to get here, and really, is it going to be good enough for her liking?
Right, exactly. I mean, there's just too many ifs, too many variables that you need to go a certain way to take on a horse that's going to be a relatively short price. So I'll be interested to see how she performs, because I do think if she runs better, she's probably going to quickly become a real Oaks candidate. And I didn't feel that way about her, certainly as a 2-year-old, but she will have taken a clear step forward if that's the case. Interested to see how this Honeybee plays out, a grade 3 for $750,000 that goes as race number 9. Let's move on to the 10th. Maidens again, this time going long on the on the only oval at Oaklawn. I shouldn't say the main track, but we're going to have a field of 11 going postward here. I would say, Matt, that even though Gethsemane's been made the 5-2 morning line favorite, I think Banksy's is going to be pretty well backed here. Rolled home from well off the pace. Interestingly, ran in the same race as Silver Syndicate, who we had in the first leg of this sequence. So we'll get a little bit of a line on Banksy's debut performance based on that. We have a replay of Dragonis' runner-up effort from last time out that we can watch now. He actually opened up a pretty clear lead off the far turn here and was run down late in the short stretch of the mile as Spirit of Royal ended up getting his measure. Dragonis now has to deal with a far outside post, which is never an easy thing to do, going a mile and a 16. But this is a horse with some ability. I will admit I had a relatively difficult time with this race. Really didn't find anybody I thought was overly interesting, and even thought the one Owie might be a little bit dangerous with speed from the rail. Where did you go in this 10th race?
I landed with a price in here, Nick. I agree with you. I think this is a very competitive race. I think there are different ways you can go. Unlike the maiden special weight sprint, I don't necessarily think the morning line favorites look like they're just significantly better than the others. I think this is a very good betting race. I picked a 12-1 morning line here, Rocky Raccoon, number 8. I thought his first race was really solid with a horse that probably wasn't going to win that race that day, first time out. He stalked the pace. Turning for home, he had the lead. And at the quarter pole, Ramon Vasquez, who was aboard that day, looked like he had horse, and he had a little bit of horse. But late in the game, he got a little bit tired, and he ended up running in third. I thought it was a great effort from him first time out, all things considered. It's hard, I think, for some of these horses to win first out going 2 turns. If they want it, it's a little bit easier. I don't think this horse is a superstar necessarily. I think he's a decent horse. But at the same time, with a horse like him, I think you have to be really solid to win first time out. So he got that race under his belt. I like that he's got some tactical speed. John Velasquez hops aboard. That's a big time positive. And Rocky Raccoon to me is one that could take a step forward in lifetime start number 2. I thought his first race was very encouraging.
No, love it. I am a huge fan of betting second time starters, and when you see the kind of life that this horse showed, I think it helps quite a bit as well. I thought the 6 Mr. Fancy Pants was interesting. He was wide, chasing the entire way last time out. Did come up wanting late. Maybe it's more so the damn side of the pedigree that's going to win out in terms of this horse's ultimate distance preference, because he looked a little bit more like a Bayern than an Honor AP in the stretch of that race. But I'm willing to give him one more try in what probably should be a slower paced race than the one that he comes out of. They moved well in the early stages of that race, and Fleek came from well off of it to finish second, with just JoJo, who's back in here as well, who made a move from a little bit off the pace to finish third. So I thought I could find a story that I could believe on Mr. Fancy Pants as well. We talked about Dragones. Did you have any interest in him from that outside post?
I think he's a horse that needs to improve, not necessarily physically, but mentally. This horse showed in that last race that he has ability. But if you look at the 8th pole, he just put his ears up. He almost started to just idle and stop. And it just seems like he doesn't really know what he's doing out there. I don't love the outside post. Winning from the 11 hole, going a mile and a 16th in a competitive race like this, I think it gives him a little more of a tall order. But I do think he has the physical ability to win this race. It's just a matter of, can he finish it up? Because last time out, turning for home, he was 1-5 to win that race. And I don't think it was because he got tired that he got run down again. I think it's a mental thing. He looked like he idled down the lane. Good horse, might be one of the better horses in the race, possibly the best horse physically. But from an outside post and the whole mental maturity with him, he needs to show a little more than he did last time.
I feel like we have to at least touch on the morning line favorite Gethsemane, who was bet down to 9-10 on debut at Fairgrounds, came back around 2 turns, had the misfortune of running into Reagan's Honor. He was actually in that race we watched a replay for Market Runner a couple of races ago. There wasn't much pace on in there. He did make a wide move, flattened out late. It just feels like a bad gamble taking this horse as the favorite.
I would agree. I thought this horse didn't necessarily get a bad trip. I thought he just was 5th best. Now, this might be a little bit of an easier group as a whole than what he saw in that last race at the Fairgrounds, which will help. But Brad Cox, by second time out, they're pretty fit. And I just didn't see that much from him to indicate that this horse is a good bet at 5-2. Maybe he's a good horse, but again, we're talking about the gambling game here. And as you mentioned, I agree with you. I think 5-2 on a horse like this, it's an underlay, no doubt about it.
I agree. How about Banksy's, who made that big late move going 6 furlongs on debut, now gets a little bit more ground. Of course, we know it's not as simple as, oh, they were closing at 6 furlongs, they'll love a mile and a 16th. That was an extreme pace scenario where he really took full advantage of it. I feel like in a way he's kind of in that same category, right? A win candidate, but not really a great bet.
And the thing is, I'm the type of handicapper that when you see a horse that's 20-1, 30-1 first time out, and they run a really good race, and then they're the favorite in the next race, or you have to question it. It's sort of a cause for pause. Did this horse run big on debut? Was he not bet because he wasn't well regarded? You have to also question, and this is something that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's very hit or miss. But you see a horse run a really good race from off the pace first time out, and then they immediately try him routing. The question is this horse a late running sprinter, or is he a horse that wants more distance? And sometimes those good races with the late running sprinters that you come to find out when they route, they don't have quite that kick. So I just feel there's a lot of question marks with this horse still. Obviously, he ran a really good race first time out. I love the way he finished. I don't know how you couldn't if you watch the replay. Really finished just as well as anybody, including the winner that day, and galloped out well. But post 10, again, you're getting towards those outside waters to where it becomes a little more difficult to win all the way out there. And as I said, there are question marks with this horse. And I just feel the two morning line favorites, they're underlays. They could win, but I don't know if they're great bets in here.
I agree. You're getting the worst of it with him, no question about it, at roughly an eighth of the price that he was in the debut. Well, let's get to the centerpiece of this 12 race card on Sunday afternoon at Oaklawn. The Rebel, grade 2, worth $1 million, going a mile in the 16th. I think it's understood that the one Bravaro is going to scratch and run in the Fountain of Youth on Saturday. Matt, I'm going to start this off by talking about a horse that I'm really looking forward to betting in here, and then I want to get your opinion on him and anybody else that strikes your fancy. But I didn't really understand why Todd Pletcher shortened up Class President last time out in the Swale. I know he had nearly going in the Holy Bull a little bit later that day, but Class President ended up in a position where nobody wants to be, right? Chasing a loose leader through a very moderate pace for the level, and he ended up making an appreciable move up the inside where you don't really want to be on the Gulfstream main track. Now he's drawn inside in a situation where the one horse to his inside is probably not going to show a ton of speed. Litmus Test wants to come from a little bit off of it. I think this horse is going to be forwardly placed. I think he's always been cut out to be a router. I don't know what price he'll end up being. He'll be less than 10 to 1, but I'm going to bet on Class President in here, and I'll use him prominently in any of the horizontal exotics. And to me, the only other two horses that I really want to use are Litmus Test and Blackout Time, and probably Litmus Test a little bit more than Blackout Time. I'm going to pretty much reject the Southwest form, and perhaps that will end up being a good idea, perhaps not. Where did you land in this, Rebel?
Well, we're on the same page here, Nick. I really like Class President as well. I'm with you. Everything you said, I'm with you on it. I don't think there's as much pace in this race as the Southwest. So Class President has that tactability to where he can lay close. And I agree with you on Litmus Test. I think he's a horse that maybe wants a target to run at, a Litmus Test. And we'll talk about him later, I'm imagining. But Class President's a horse that will very much, I agree with you, benefit from going two turns, going a little more ground. He finished second last time behind Solitude Dude, and who knows how good he is. He could be the real deal. He's trying the Fountain of Youth, but he, at the very least, is a freakish sprinter, even if he doesn't take to those two turns tomorrow on Saturday. I think there's a lot of things to like about Class President. He's a little more lightly raced than some others in here, but there's no doubt about it, the talent's there. And on debut, I thought he did a lot of right things when he broke his maiden and defeated a next out easy winner in Easterly. So Class President, also with you, 10 to 1. We're not getting it, but we could probably get half that price if we get lucky, because I do think a lot of people are going to hammer Litmus Test, Silent Tactic. I think those horses, and even Blackout Time, they're going to get bet.
I agree. And we mentioned, of course, each of us the Southwest. We can watch the replay of that where Silent Tactic swooped by the entire field down the center of the track. And you caught this move being made early, and it wasn't easy because his stablemate had identical silks and was right in front of him when they straightened out. So I feel your pain there. Yeah, I always curse when I see the same caps, but there's not many options with a Jack Oxley set of silks. But, this is a race, Matt, where, and I'm sure watching the replay back, you probably noticed again, Christian Torres was high in the saddle on this horse all the way to the 3/8 pole. I mean, it was mainly a matter of once he gets open racetrack, he is going to produce. I'm not high on him here, but I don't want to be completely dismissive of him as potentially being a decent horse. Yeah, that race could have been a little bit faster. Yeah, he got a pretty strong pace to run at. I do think he ran by a couple of eventual sprinters in Butane and Soldier and Diplomat, milers at best. But I also want to acknowledge that, I mean, this was a horse, they paid 100 times the stud fee for a Tacitus, and he's gotten significantly better in his two dirt starts. He's not without chance. I just don't want him this time around.
And I think that the pace scenario is going to be a little bit different, and the class is tougher in this race. And you've got horses here, as you mentioned, Butane and Soldier and Diplomat, questions as to how far they want to go. They're probably okay at a mile and a 16th, but horses like Litmus Test, Blackout Time, they're just better horses that this horse is going to have to run down. I like them. I don't think that race was a fluke. He got a moderate pace, not a fast pace, not a slow pace to run into. And as you mentioned, he had a ton of horse down the backside into the far turn. Christian could have pretty much pressed the button whenever he did. And this horse really took off and won like a good horse. And the one positive with this horse, I think, is that he does want all the ground in the world. He's got the running style to suggest that distance is no problem for him, and he's doing really well. I know his last work was as good of a work as he's ever had in his whole life, and I saw it. It was a very good work. But it's going to be a little bit deeper waters here in the Rebel, and the pace scenario is going to be a little different. I would use him on tickets. I think he's a legit good horse. Is he this good to win this race? I don't know, but I do think we're going to find out more about him with this class in mind. If he can beat this field, then you're looking at a really serious Derby contender. This is a good race,
Yes.
but he ran well enough to suggest, okay, maybe he can take the step up because he was much the best that day, much the best.
I agree. He undoubtedly was. I've seen a lot of chatter for Soldier and Diplomat. I think Soldier and Diplomat is a really nice horse. Ultimately, I feel like he's going to be at his best cutting back and shortening up in distance. That being said, I mean, he ran a very strong race in the Southwest off the layoff, and we've seen Steve squeeze as much as possible out of these sprinter types in an effort to get to the Derby before ultimately cutting them back. I didn't want him, but I don't really blame anybody who wants to try him at a price.
He's obviously a horse with a lot of talent, and there are a lot of people that have told me this is a Pat Day mile type of horse. And I
Yeah.
don't necessarily disagree, but he is a good horse. Again, we talked about it with a couple other horses earlier. You're getting to post 10 now, drawn outside. Now we're starting to get in territory where post could make a difference. The good news for Jose Ortiz is he knows this horse. This horse broke from an outside post in the Southwest, farther out, and still ran a good race and was able to work out a good trip. And there's not an abundance of pace, so he can probably tuck over and work out a good trip outside of other speed. But I agree with you. I also wonder maybe if he couldn't hold off Silent Tactic, is he a top tier horse in this race? I lean towards him maybe being a second tier type of horse in this race. He could run well. I don't think he's as good as Litmus Test. I don't think he's as good as Blackout Time. I don't necessarily know how good he is compared to Class President, but I would imagine that Class President going in the right direction. That's why I like him. And I think Soldier and Diplomats run well enough to where we've seen him and we know him at this point. He's going to have to improve to win the race. To me, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's talk about Litmus Test and Blackout Time, the 2-3 finishers from the Breeders' Futurity last year, and maybe outside of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That was the best form line of 2025 amongst juveniles. Litmus Test, it's really a matter of what's happened since then. Obviously, we've not seen Blackout Time, and Litmus Test to me has gotten significantly better. He has run 2 complete races in a row, running a good race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile to finish 4th, and then coming right back and winning with this grinding style in the Los Al Futurity. It feels like we've seen Bob Baffert with these kind of horses over the years. This is one that he really put the screws to as a 2-year-old also. He let him travel. He got him around to a couple of different spots. I think this horse is probably better than he's getting billed as at this point, and I'm excited to see where he starts as a 3-year-old. What are your thoughts on both he and Blackout Time?
Well, I think with Litmus Test, sometimes you see these Bob Baffert horses, and right off the bat they shine, and you go, "Whoa, what do
Right.
we have here?" This horse won on debut, but he was never early on considered one of Bob's top 2-year-olds. I mean, he was a good horse, and they liked him, but he wasn't the cream of the crop early. But he's just continued to progress. He's continued to impress, and he continues to get better. And that's what you want to see with a horse on the Derby trail, going in the right direction at the right time. And he just continues to go in that right direction. So there's not a lot to fault here. I will note that age-old question, who did he beat? You could make an argument he didn't beat that much in the Los Alamitos Futurity compared to what he's going to run against in the Rebel in another major Derby prep. This is a tougher group for him. But he's been around. I mean, he ran 3rd at Keeneland to none other than Blackout Time. He ran 2nd in Ted Nafi, the champion 2-year-old. So this horse is in that conversation. I think he's a must-use on tickets. I didn't make him my top pick. I think maybe he might get overbet a little bit. I also think like Blackout Time at 8-5, we're not going to get that on Blackout Time. He's going to drift up, and Litmus Test is going to drift down. They're probably going to be around the same type of price. I like Litmus Test. I think he's a must-use. But I will say this is a tougher group, and I wonder, is he going to get become an underlay status. With Blackout Time, I think he's a very talented horse. Kenny McPeak's always really liked this horse. But at a low odds price here, he's only got 5 works on the page. He had 3 furlong, 4 furlong, then 3 5 furlong drills. You just have to question, is this horse going to be 100% cranked? And in a race like this, where this is a really good quality field, there's not a lot of margin for error here, and you got to be on your A game. So he's the type of horse I would love to see him run second or third in this race, then be third or fourth choice in the Arkansas Derby, and then maybe bet him then. I think he's beatable today. I think he's a very good horse, but I do think maybe you try to beat him on the win end in this particular race.
Yeah, he is the I-49 special right now, bouncing back and forth between Oaklawn and Fairgrounds for some of that morning activity. Got the drill over the local track back on February 11th. I'm excited to see both Litmus Test and Blackout Time make their 3-year-old debuts here in the Rebel. Well, the Nightcap is an Archie bred maiden special weight event at 6 furlongs, and I wouldn't say you can sleep on a lot of these horses. There are some good performances prior already, especially from a horse like the 7, Like a Diamond, who's going to be a pretty heavy favorite, I think, when all is said and done, 8-5 on the morning line. I couldn't miss an opportunity, second week in a row, where I actually had the opportunity to run a Sam Houston replay on here. And Boss Adama comes out of a debut effort at Sam Houston on January 3rd. This is a funny restricted race. It's a Stallion Stakes Series race, and the reason why Boss Adama was eligible is because her sire is a Texas Stallion. So she is an Arkansas bred and obviously gets back into this. You know, Matt, this was actually a pretty legitimate race. It compares favorably to what you'd get, I think, in for the most part in the Arkansas bred ranks. And Boss Adama was a debuting runner for Steve Asmussen, didn't receive a ton of money. She's in the Pink Silks, second off the rail, running in 5th right now. You're going to see her angle out an upper stretch and make a meaningful late bid. I thought this was a good performance. I think one you can build off of a little bit. The eventual winner, Harvey's Finish, came back and ran poorly on the slop next time out on our big day, the Houston Racing Festival, but then subsequently won a stake race in her next start, going back into the Stallion Stake Series event. So Boss Adama sneaks through there between horses and upper stretch and puts in a nice late bid while Harvey's Finish comes up the rail. I felt like she would run a little bit better second time out. Historically, Steve was better second time out than he was on debut, and it's really only been in the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years. I'm going back a little bit farther than that when you wanted his horses second out, where he's really done some exceptional work with first-time starters. I kind of wanted to use the 7 and 10 in here. I feel like a Diamond improves off of her last start. They're probably not going to beat her.
Yeah, and Like a Diamond, her barn this whole year has just done really well. Second start out, second start off a layoff with all their horses. So it wasn't a surprise to me that she improved greatly second time out. She's the one to beat. I actually watch all the Oaklawn workout videos on Oaklawn.com. You can go on there and watch a bunch of workout videos. And before the meet started, I tabbed her as, she's got some ability in the Arkansas bred ranks. And when she was in for a tag first out, I was a little surprised, but she really improved second out against Maiden Special Weight Company, right, which she finds here in lifetime start number 3. I think Boss of Drama's must use. As you know, Steve's the type of trainer that he's really good at developing horses and getting them to improve over time. They can win first time out, but he also has good horses that they lose first time out, and then second, third time out, you just see him getting better. And even after they break their maidens, they get better. I like Whispering Charm a little bit in this race. I thought she was really game last time out off a layoff, and I thought she put up a respectable effort. And if she can take a step forward, second start off a break, I think she can run well here for Peter Miller, who's having a really good meet. You mentioned, Nick, you like betting second-time starters. I love the angle of any horse doing something for the second time. Second-time rounding, second-time starters, second off a layoff. I really like that angle. So she's my pick in the race, but I don't disagree with you with Like a Diamond and Boss of Drama. Those 3 are my top 3 picks, and I think they're the 3 clear ones to beat.
I agree. I think that makes perfect sense. Whispering Charm would be my third horse for sure. That was a vastly improved race. First time for Peter Miller as well, which, you know, we're not surprised to see. He's having a great Oaklawn meet as well. I did think the 2 Artemis Sparkles on the inside, I wish she had drawn an outside post. I could probably make a case for her because she did get into the thick of that hot pace last out. Didn't run as well as Whispering Charm, but was also making her debut. I just hate that she's buried on the inside, and it feels like she's going to have to deal with a lot from that kind of draw, unless Luis Quinones can just get her out of the gate as quick as possible. And really, if that ends up being the case, it feels like a Diamond will run her down. So that was kind of the different scenarios that I ran through in my head. But a good way to cap the sequence, you would probably be on the 7 and 9 here, 7, 9, 10 to close it out.
Absolutely, yeah. 7, 9, 10 for me. And I like towards those outside posts. I do want to note that, Nick, especially with Arkansas bred races. When you get these big fields in the Arkansas bred ranks, they can get strung out. And the problem is sometimes on the far turn, you start seeing speed horses that start getting tired, and you get a lot of trips in these races, trip plays, horses that have to steady if they're inside because there's horses backing up into them. So a horse like Artemis Sparkles, Louis Q's got to work out a good trip. So I prefer outside posts in these Arkansas bred maiden special weight sprints because they can stay out of all those issues if they occur on the turn.
I agree with that completely. Well, that is a look at the late pick 5 sequence. Again, we've got the $2,000 hit it and split it late pick 5 promotion available at TwinSpires. Make sure you're playing along there, opt in and get your share if you hit that late pick 5. Hopefully Matt and I have put you on a few winners. You will put us on winners every day. Oaklawn today starts an hour. Is it an hour before first post?
An hour before first post, yeah. So in an hour and a half, I'll be in that studio looking a lot more dapper than this. I promise you that.
You looked fine as far as we were concerned. So hopefully we got you on a few live horses. Matt, thank you so much. This was a blast. We're going to enlist you to do this again in the future.
I would love to. We had a great time, Nick. Thanks for having me, and good luck Rebel Weekend. Should be fun.
Anytime. Looking forward to it. Matt Dinnerman, racing fan extraordinaire and an outstanding announcer as well. Be sure to tune in, of course, to all of the Oaklawn races available at twinspires.com. Well, that's it for us. For Matt, Nick here. Until next time, best of luck. All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Blaze. Great job. That was a lot of fun.
Yes.
If you ever need me,
No,
would love to do it.
Absolutely.
Got your number. We'll call you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful. Nick, when you talk to Travis, give him my best.
I will do. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a good dude. I always enjoy his work.
No, for sure. I will do that.
So,
all right, guys.
All right, guys, take it easy. Yep, have a good rest of the day.
Take care.
Bye. All right, you too.